A topic at West Ham that's always sort of rumbling on in the background is the ownership of the club. There's always speculation in terms of potential new owners, shareholders, etc. Talked about it a fair bit in terms of the Man United sale or part sale to Jim Ratcliffe, the impact that could have on West Ham, whether that we would have Qatari interest in buying West Ham. That's still rumbling on in the background. As we understand it, there is interest at West Ham, but it's been going on and on for some time. And then since the sad passing, of course, of David Gold, and then followed by his daughter, which is very, very sad, Jacqueline. And then, of course, Vanessa's now taken on that kind of role as looking after the shares of the Gold family shares. There's been further speculation, hasn't there, about what's going to happen. Are they going to look to sell? Are they going to be interested in being here? And all this kind of things. And will David Sullivan want to sell? And of course, Daniel Kretinsky. I think the feeling's always kind of been the more likely would be that Kretinsky would up his ownership. But as far as we understand it at the moment, that is not the case. And now there's been further developments. And the further developments are quite interesting in that the owners of the club want to take West Ham to the next level. They want to have further investment. They want to push this football club forward. That's great. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear, as West Ham fans, some ambition, and we want to see something we can start believing in and dreaming in, and etc. So there's been a bit of an update on this, and it's come from two sides. One's come from ex-WHU employee, and this has also come basically the same news. It's come from Sean Whetstone on West Ham Football on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. X. No one calls it X, do they? It's Twitter. It always will be. Anyway, I digress. But what we're hearing now is that the club, the shareholders, are looking to provide a 25% package opportunity to a potential new partner at West Ham. And they're looking in the Middle East. They're looking for a very rich person or party to come forward to acquire a quarter of West Ham, with the aim being that they will then be an equal partner with David Sullivan and Kretinsky, the three of them, to take the club forward. So the way it's going to work is, this is only one scenario, but it's the more likely scenario at this stage. David Sullivan would sell 13.8% of his shares. He currently owns 38.8%. Daniel Kretinsky will then sell 2% of his 27% shares, and the Gold family will sell 9.2%. This will then create a 25% shareholder package for a new investment partner. That would leave Sullivan, Kretinsky, and this new partner with 25% each as equal partners. The Gold family would retain 15.9%. Trip Smith will have 8%. Terry Brown and Daniel Harris will remain in 1.1%. It's very interesting, and quite, dare I say, a little bit exciting. I quite like the idea of the fact that the club are looking to push forward, because maybe this is opening that door, like I was saying earlier, of this Qatari interest, and we're looking to try and get someone to come and buy the club, possibly off the hands full-time of David Sullivan and Kretinsky, etc. Well, this might be the door opening towards that. And maybe that will be something that will happen in the not too distant future. What's really interesting, I find, about this more than anything is the fact that we've got David Sullivan now willing to sell a large portion of his shares. We've not had that. We've not ever sensed that once before, ever, since David Sullivan took over. Was it back in 2010? So 14 years ago? We've not ever seen that. If David Sullivan's never ever suggested that he was going to sell the club. All right, he's been in interviews before and said if the right person came along to take the club forward, then we'd look at it. But what I'm saying is we've never actually seen numbers and figures that he's actually willing to give up a portion of his ownership at West Ham. I think it's really big news, the fact that David Sullivan is doing that now. And what I like about it as well is that the club want to push forward to the next level. Whatever you want to say about David Sullivan, Gold, Sullivan, Brady, or the whole ownership of this football club, it has been for the last 14 years. And let's be fair, there's been a lot of reasons to be frustrated, embarrassed a lot of the time, isn't it, from our ownership and some of the decision making. I've just did a video yesterday on Ben Johnson and the situation regarding that. That's a prime example of poor decision making, naivety, and just idiotic, really. A lot of the time, we've seen some really bad moments. I think there's one thing that I think's fair to say, and I might be, I want to be very careful what I'm saying here, but I think it's probably fair to say, though, that the club has moved forward. Might not be in the way we always wanted. We've lost Upton Park in the process, which has been horrendously sad and still sad to this day. We've got a stadium that's not really fit for purpose in terms of a football stadium, which is frustrating. We've got a training ground that's a bit of a source for embarrassment. All these things, and plus, certain ways we've gone about doing our business have been frustrating at time. But if you park all of that aside, and there's a fair lot of it to park, I grant you, but the club has grown. You can't deny that. Like, the club is in a much stronger position than it was before. Financially, we are far better than where we were when David Sullivan first came into the football club. We are competing in Europe. We are a widely recognised football club now around the world than where we probably weren't before. So there's no denying that the club is in a better position overall. I mean, as I say, parking the things that really do mean the world to us. Would I rather be at Upton Park and having a football stadium? Yes, of course I would be. But, we can't dwell on things like that. I'm just talking about in the grand scheme of it, if you stand back and look at West Ham as a club, as a brand, etc., it has pushed on. So the fact is now that we've got our ownership that are now willing to take it even further forward, I actually think it's quite exciting. I really do. And I'm really excited by the idea that David Sullivan's willing to sell his shares. I think that's a real step in the right direction. We've not seen that before. And I'd be excited by having another major shareholder come forward, someone with a bit of money that's willing to invest in the football club. We've had it with Kretinsky. Let's be frank, like we've seen Kretinsky's impact at this club. We've been run slightly differently since he's been involved. The spend has been different since he's been involved. So the idea that we're going to now look to build upon that, have Kretinsky as an equal partner to Sullivan and a potential new rich investor, I think it's exciting for West Ham. I think it opens up some doors for us. I think we're starting to see a bit of a brighter future. Now, at this stage, it is really preliminary. I mean, we don't know any names or who it could be and how well the talks are going. No idea. But there's a clear ambition from our board to push forward, to go further, because West Ham are in a really good position. Let's be honest, at the moment, we are in a really decent place. We've got Premier League football secured again next season, which is always a big tick straight away that we're going to be playing in the top flight. We haven't had a relegation battle this season, thank Christ. We're in another European Cup run. Look, it's going to be very tough to lift that trophy. We know that, but could we have European football here next season? Possibly. It's not guaranteed. Are we going to finish in the top 8? It's not guaranteed at all. But it's that there's potential for us to do that. And I think actually it's a quite exciting time. I look at that. I look at this news and I'm not filled with, it sounds a bit pie in the sky. And it sounds quite reasonable. It's now hoping that West Ham, of course, can capitalise on this and find the right investor. As we know for a fact, Qataris have had a big interest in West Ham and continue to do so. They own a hell of a lot of land around the ground. So it's one to watch. It really is. I'm not suggesting that it's going to be dealt with in 5 minutes and next week we're going to be announcing a new owner. I don't think that's going to be the case. But it wouldn't surprise me within the next 6 to 12 months that we're going to have a new investor at West Ham. And it could well be, like we have with Kretinsky, someone's coming in with their one eye on the full ownership takeover. Who knows? It's exciting. It's good news, I think, anyway. I'd like to know your thoughts on it. But yeah, as we stand right now, West Ham, 25% of West Ham anyway, is for sale.